in Melbourne. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has spoken to Indonesia's President Joko Widodo after our neighbour country, along with Malaysia, expressed concern about the AUKUS agreement. Australia says it remains staunch in its support for the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty after Indonesia said it was deeply concerned that the new submarine agreement could encourage an arms race. James Chin is Professor of Asian Studies and Director of the Asia Institute in University of Tasmania, I should say. He joins us now. Professor Chen, why are Indonesia and Malaysia so concerned?
Thank you very much. So I think they're very concerned for three main reasons. The first, obviously, is that it's the arms race. They worry about that this will encourage an arms race in Southeast Asia. Secondly, they worry that if Australia goes nuclear, sooner or later, from nuclear-powered submarines, you will probably acquire nuclear weapons. And the third reason why they're very worried is that they worry that this will provoke China to do or become more aggressive in the South China Sea. As many of the viewers know, the South China Sea is now seen as a key venue for competition between America and China.
Our Prime Minister has been at pains to point out that the nuclear submarines don't mean nuclear weapons in that sense. Is that going to take more work to convince our neighbours of that?
Well, I think part of the problem is that they were not consulted. The other thing was, I think many of the countries in Southeast Asia were very uncomfortable that Australia is always seen to be doing the bidding of the Americans. So I think this announcement came as a huge surprise, given the fact that we just had America withdraw from Afghanistan not so long ago. So many people in that region are thinking that this is again part of the wider alliance built by America to confront China. And they're worried that, if you're going to confront China, you're going to confront it in our backyard. So I can understand why there was a lot of anxiety in the region.
This new AUKUS arrangement, does this marginalise ASEAN relations?
I don't think it marginalizes ASEAN relations, but what it does is that it tells the world again that although ASEAN tries to project itself as a very important regional body, when it comes to big power politics, ASEAN really doesn't play a role at all.
So what are the implications of this AUKUS agreement for ASEAN countries?
I think, again, it tells us that although ASEAN is an important regional organization, when it comes to big power conflicts, their influence is very, very limited. It also tells us that ASEAN itself is really not united, because it is quite clear that there are some countries in ASEAN, for example, Vietnam, who really doesn't mind that Australia is stepping up to confront China. As you know, Vietnam has territorial disputes with China in the South China Sea. And there are probably a couple of other countries, for example, who are in favor of Australia actually stepping up. So I think the picture is more mixed. But the main point I'm trying to make is that we should not underestimate the anxiety of the Southeast Asian countries. And Australia should do what it can to assure those countries that, that just because Australia is having nuclear powered submarines, it doesn't mean that the confrontation with China will go up a couple of notches.
It's you touched on this a moment ago, the surprise element that many of these countries have taken issue with, and certainly that's what France has taken issue with, along with disappointment at the decision. Is there another way of doing this, though?
Unfortunately, no. When it deals with big security stuff like this, there is no other way to do it other than to negotiate in secret. The reason why you have to negotiate in secret because you deal with very sensitive data. Secondly, you have to negotiate in secret because not all these negotiations end up with a deal. So unfortunately, this sort of thing, it has to be done in secret. But there are ways of handling it. For example, you can hint to your allies that you're looking at the different possibilities. So in this case, even France was not told that Australia was looking into this issue. So that's probably the reason why the French are very angry as well.
And Professor Chin, as we say, we've heard from Malaysia and Indonesia who are concerned about this. We've got New Zealand, for example, that's watchful over this arrangement. Who of our neighbours are happy with it?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I think Vietnam is okay with it. I think South Korea, Taiwan and Japan are okay with it. Basically, my take is that this issue will die down probably in a year or two. I think most of the countries in Southeast Asia do realize that there's really nothing they can do to stop Australia from upgrading its navy. and that the issue is really about the rise of China more than anything else.
James Chin, Professor of Asian Studies, Director of the Asia Institute Tasmania at the University of Tasmania. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.